Sorry for the delays. Let's get the town work session meeting for January 25th started. Roll call, please.
Weir.
Aye.
Pater. Here. Larson.
Here.
Shannon.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Snyder.
Here.
Casanello.
I am unmuted.
Here.
Roll call for Casanella.
Here.
Okay, we'll go to the next item. Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item is a closed session. Sorry to put this up front, but there are some discussions that need to be had for the later agenda items. So if I can get a motion.
I would move that the Haymarket Town Council convene in closed session to discuss the following as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.2/3711A1, a personnel matter involving the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific police officers, appointees, or employees of the town, specifically dealing with the hiring of police officers, disposition of 599 funds, and the town clerk's salary.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and second. Guess it goes for a roll call or it seems
Weir.
Aye.
Pater.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Casanello.
He's on the chat saying he can't hear anything.
Councilman Casanella, we're voting to go into closed session.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, Mary, you're back in.
good. Okay, we're back from the closed session. I guess we need to,
Now I would move that the council certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed in a closed session under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as cited in the motion.
Second.
okay, got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
No,
Roll call.
Roll call.
Weir.
Aye.
Pater.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Casanello.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, without objection, I would direct the chief to proceed with the hiring process for the sixth officer.
So moved.
No
No
move
objection.
required.
Done.
No move required. Good.
Okay, so we'll move on to our agenda items then. First agenda item we have here is the town park building.
Yes, so what we have done is we have gotten a building inspection done for the park building. After the inspection of the park building, we had a couple different items that needed to be addressed. So last week, we had an individual go and check out the basement. So they will be providing us a quote for what we need to do to shore up the foundation and help with the basement. And then Mr. Mason, he just joined the planning commission, he had actually reached out to us a little while ago about an idea that the town could partner with him, and I'll go ahead and let him present that, but basically they would utilize the park similar to how Haymarket Coffee is utilizing the museum. So this way, they get something out of it as well as the town, so I just wanted to invite them here to kind of give you a 30,000-foot view of what their plans are, and then if you guys have any questions, you could ask them.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, we're going to have trouble with Joe's sound.
I'll get it fixed here in a second.
Okay.
All right.
first, I want to thank the council for entertaining us. I know this is a late evening for you guys, so we will try not to take too much of your time. I think I've met a bulk of you early on when we were talking about, at Big Joe's house, when we were talking about ideas we had for festivals and things to kind of bring a little bit more community feel to some of the like Haymarket Days and festivals and things like that. And so in the process of that, we end up talking to Emily and Chris about some of our ideas and how we could help out, because we really want to be involved in the community, not just as residents, but also be involved with our time. So in the process of that, the idea came up of possibility of partnering with the city. And so in that discussion, we put together a PowerPoint of our thoughts and ideas of how we thought we might be able to help. The thought was the possibility of renting the space, renovating the inside of the space of the building, and using that space to be as rental space for parties, for meetings, and things of that sort. So if you don't mind, just go to the next slide. All right. Haymarket is a wonderful community. It's where we want to live. It's going to be our forever home. But one of the things we notice is there's not a real place for the community to gather, for people and family to get together to break bread, for the Boy Scouts to have meetings and things of that sort. So what we thought we would do was apply our funds into reconstructing the inside of the home, the building, to make it compatible or make it more pleasant for having meetings and things of that sort. So the first slide kind of talks about the living room area. We would basically go in, repaint it, resand the floors, put in like nice furniture and nice rugs, and make it a space that would be open for people to be able to have like book clubs and bridal showers and like small family reunions, birthdays, and things of that sort. If you go to the next slide, the next big space is also, we thought we could turn that into and renovate that into like a conference room, equipped with teleconference, with so a large monitor on the screen, large table for meetings and things of that sort. But that can also be used for any kinds of award ceremonies, meetings with the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, Garden Club, things of that sort. Next, please. Right adjacent, or basically part of that room, is a huge bay door with a patio that really is not getting a lot of use. So the thought was we could turn that space into an area that, like, for people that wanted to have small weddings, we could develop a pathway, stone pathway, that would basically lead to a pagoda walking out of that door. So you could have chairs flanking either side, and people could have their, the small weddings and small receptions there. Additionally, completely renovating the kitchen and turning it into a professional kitchen, so you can, for caterers, or if you're having a family reunion and you wanted to, or party or something like that, you want to do your own cooking, but an industrial kitchen. Next slide, please. Next one. So that would be that. The first phase is just getting the space ready to have for as a meeting space, parties and things that we talked about. The next phase, or the phase in cooperation with the city, would be the amphitheater. Next. And we just kind of threw out some ideas based off of the renderings that you guys have already put together as what we thought might be a nice look for that space. Next slide. Movie nights and things of that sort. Concerts, church services. That could also be used as a rental space for people that wanted to have for Easter, have outdoor church service, or for having a movie or having a party where they're going to have a movie night for the kids, and they want to rent that space for the party for their children. Next slide. This is speaking more, illustrating more the kind of the gazebo project I was talking about with having like a wedding, or like wedding type of situation going outside of it. Next one. And then just showing kind of the doors I was talking about. We would completely reconstruct that whole, if you could go back a slide. You know, the damaged patio, reconstruct the doors probably, but leaving everything historical and with the period, but making it nice, putting some wrought iron railing and things of that sort, making it, preparing it for like if somebody wanted to have a wedding or something like that for that space. Next slide. And this is just kind of an illustration of what we're talking about. Next slide. Next one. Okay. Some of the outside renovations that we noticed that we probably would like to get the city's approval to do if we move forward was like fixing the patio. Right now it's just basically, you know, a 2x4 that's connecting the sides, just sprucing it up, making it look nicer, making it look like the town center for meetings and gatherings that it should be. So just improving on the aesthetics, improving on the greenery around it and things of that sort. Also, we know that the garden club likes to meet here, and maybe working with them and with the city to maybe develop like a small greenhouse for them so they can actually, you know, do their thing year round. Please, next slide. This is kind of illustrating some of the festivals that we were talking about throwing and organizing. Actually, I'm remiss. I didn't really introduce my wife, Joanna Mason.
Later.
Oh yes, I will. She has a background. She's a VP with TD Bank and did marketing for many years. So she would be a lot of the thought power behind helping us developing the festivals and things of that sort. Next slide. Things like Diwali.
Again, thank you so much for your time and hearing us out. So, as my husband was saying, you know, with Haymarket being such a walking community, such a quaint community, we would be remiss to learn and understand how fast we're growing and how diverse we are in this little community. And it's all about, you know, bringing awareness, bringing education, and really celebrating the diversity that this little town of Haymarket has, and really, you know, encouraging and supporting diversity and inclusion in this little town by celebrating, you know, festivals that are relevant to key residents. Now, you know, we're going to highlight, you know, some of the festivals, but really this is just broad brush. But the one celebration that we wanted to bring, just because over 2 miles over is Gainesville, and there's a huge pocket of South Asians that really celebrate their key festival, which is Diwali, the Festival of Lights, and they go all the way to Ashburn. So kind of keeping it very local and opening it up to turning the gathering place into a Diwali festival where we can invite the South Asian community to celebrate, you know, in the fall.
Next slide, please. Things like Oktoberfest.
There we go.
We'll get to that a little later, but I mean, as you know, that there's plenty of acreage around there in the backyard. We could see putting up wonderful tents and decorations and allowing people to come in and have in getting the town company restaurants and town people involved, town businesses involved. Next slide. Art festivals, same type of thing. Things that could bring revenue into the city. Next slide. Halloween, having like a scavenger hunt in that area, a costume contest for the kids. You know, people shouldn't have to go to Manassas or Fairfax or whatever else to do that type of stuff. People pay money to have that kind of experience. Next slide. Now, this is something that my wife has put together, and I'll turn it over to her, but Manassas and Great Falls and Georgetown, she put together the whole basically Santa Wonderland experience there. So we were thinking like, like during Christmas time, if you turn that front area with the fireplace and everything into an area where Santa could come and the kids could come in and meet Santa and, maybe have a storytelling session where Santa, you come in and you make appointments and Santa comes and reads stories to the kids. And while people are waiting, I'd sit on the cold. We could set up tents, with basically activities for the kids to do, like a kids workshop, like an elves workshop and stuff like that while they're waiting to go in and meet Santa.
And the objective
Could you
is
just
that-
speak into the mic? We want to make sure the people out in TV land hear everything.
Sure.
This is good stuff.
And the objective was to keep it very small town, very hometown feel. I mean, we don't have a mall, right here, the closest is, Manassas, but we still wanted to bring that mall type feeling into Haymarket, and for, the cost that you would pay, see Santa in any mall, it would be straight revenue partnership with the town, reduce the cost, make it very hometown, get local vendors to participate. So we're giving back to small business of Haymarket, but make this amazing winter wonderland that becomes the hallmark event for Haymarket during the holidays. But keep it also very diverse, so we would call it the holidays. So, we would incorporate Kwanzaa and also Hanukkah.
Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, and that was just an illustration of kind of get a bird's eye view of the acreage and where we could put tents and things of that sort and open it up for festivals and things like that. Please, next slide. All right, and so how we would kind of do this is we would develop a website that people would come to, and they want to rent the space and they want to have a party, they can do that. We'll have moon bounces and things like that sort that they would want to have. They wanted to spend a little bit more to have that, plenty of space outside to be able to set those things up for the kids. We would also basically, but the priority is Haymarket residents. So Haymarket residents would get first dibs at all times. There would be blackout dates for larger events where if the city wanted to hold something, of course, that you guys as the city and Haymarket residents get first dibs. But that'll all be illustrated, for people to see. Next slide. That's all we have for you folks. If you have any questions, I'm sure you do.
Who wants to start off?
Why is everybody looking at me?
I know you would have most questions.
I'm looking at Tracy Lynn. I'm sure she's got a lot to comment.
Little helper.
I was going to say, this excites me very, very much. Everything that you spoke to and about is just, I think, incredible. Real quick question, what would the impact of the town for insurance and liability be in regards to utilizing this business or utilizing the building?
So that's something that we would have to look into, but just like I wanted them to come present kind of a 30,000-foot view, just as I haven't put too much time and effort into it, because basically if council were to say this is a non-starter for whatever reason, then I didn't want us going too far down, working on it to, basically come up with nothing. So as long as council is interested in moving forward, then I will absolutely try and get those numbers and see what the financial impact would be.
Let's go next.
I'll wait.
And we would present, if we decide to go forward to the next step, we would present a business plan, thorough business plan, so you guys could see exactly what you want to do.
Thank you, sir.
Chris?
First of all, thank you. Thank you guys for coming. And we've been waiting for people like you. Not just, we've seen the effects of it at the museum with the coffee company, and now just to see you guys. And I don't think there's anyone here who would ever oppose looking further at what it is that you're bringing forward.
Thank you.
Couple key points. Do you foresee any residents being isolated from using the park while you have an event? So right now there's a lot of people using the kids using the swings and the different equipment. Do you foresee that being an issue?
No, sir. One of the things we want to do is we want to help fence in that total area.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that is segregated for public use, no matter what's going on, whatever festivals or whatever. Kids can still come and use that playground. That's not for our use.
And I know that you're not yet looking at the finer details as far as, because right now you're just wanting to get a pulse of the council to say, hey, go for it. And I don't think you're gonna have any problems getting that. But as far as cost is concerned, you mentioned, redoing floors, and is that something that you would also look at getting funding for? Or is it something where you're looking at partnership? And I don't want to get ahead of, I just want to understand is it something, because there are some organizations that may come forward to say, hey, we have a certain amount set aside to do a certain amount of project. So
from a business perspective, we already kind of considered that we would inject our own money into and renovating the inside, of course, with some kind of negotiation for
recuperating.
Yeah,
of course.
For the lease reduction or something like that.
Of course.
But we want to show that we're serious not only about putting our time, but we also are investing our money. So yes, it would be completely on us. And then, of course, if any grants come forward, then
Right.
we would utilize those resources. But as of right now, it would be our plan.
Okay.
Just to speak to that, we have done it in the past with Washington Street Realty. They did a renovation to improve the building, and we actually abated 2 months of rent. So it's something that we have done in the past when individuals are helping to put their own money into funding updates to town buildings that the rent is abated. So there's different options that we could move forward like that.
Okay. Just one more question, Mr. Mayor. Have you looked at the inspection report that was recently done of that building?
We did, and we also had our contractor come in and walk through as well to kind of give us an idea of just what it would cost to make sure it was feasible. The foundation, I know, is the primary issue, but if that ends up being good to go, then the rest will be good to go.
So let me get this straight. You have looked at the inspection report, and you're, at this point in time, willing to get our blessing to move forward?
Yes, sir.
Ah.
Sounds like true.
Great. And what type of conversations have we had about that foundation, as in funding and partnership?
So as of right now, what we have done is, after we got the inspection report, I've reached out to contractors that specifically work on foundation repair and basement waterproofing, stuff like that. And I have, JES was going to come the first, but luckily there was a cancellation, so they came in last week. So we should be getting a quote here shortly from them. And then I've got another firm out of Manassas or Chantilly that'll be coming February 15th. Unfortunately, right now, contractors, it's just taking a while to get them here, but I do have two, and I'm trying to get a third one. I've reached out to a couple people that haven't heard anything back, but I don't have any dollar amounts yet, but we at least have one inspection done and one scheduled.
And just to be clear, we anticipated the complete interior, but I think we kind of understood that if there was foundation work, that would probably work with the city to do that.
Right, right. And just so you know, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if each person had an opportunity to look at the report, initial report that we got of that building. It was done really good. I mean, the manner of details that they provided to the town, it was well done. As far as listing every possible areas for improvement, it was a really good company that Chris and his team got to do the inspection.
And they just did the inspection for the 1525 and this building today. So we'll have that report for those two buildings here shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris, or sorry, Steve,
Oh, come on.
You guys look alike.
didn't you step down, Chris?
Thank you, sir. I got to tell you, 9 years in Europe and retired Mill Lake, going to Oktoberfest, see, that really just got me. And I don't even drink anymore. But I saw Bob light up over there. So I'll go with Bob over there and maybe have a drink with him even. But couple of questions. Have there been previous meetings on this?
This is something that the Masons have shown interest in kind of helping out with events. And then I think from working with myself and Emily, it kind of fostered from helping with events to maybe taking over some events. And then I think it just kind of grew as we were talking about, basically we had started talking about the museum and how we kind of partnered with Haymarket
And that's
Coffee.
working great.
And then we were saying, we want to investigate, because the park building is an underutilized building. And And they kind of took it from there and ran. So other than just preliminary discussions about what they could do to help, that's all really the discussions that we've had. And
I'll tell you, not too much has excited me like this has for this town, because I think that's something the town's missing that I would love to have. One of the questions, I mean, obviously, at a public hearing, you would hear from neighbors, because there's neighbors over there that I would be willing to bet would not be happy about this. We heard some neighbors just when we put the playground in and everything, and I can understand why. But I definitely love the idea. I think this would set us apart from other little towns. I mean, I don't know anybody else that has something like this to offer. And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, Diwali, my neighborhood right here, I think we've got 12 Indian families out of 30 homes. They celebrate because I get invited. You don't. I do. No Jamaicans, just Texans. But I just think it's, I'm excited about this. I was just curious why I hadn't heard anything about this in the past, but I'm excited about it. So, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your service too, sir. And I'm former mill as well, still reservist, so.
Well, thank you for your service.
Which branch?
Marshawn?
Maybe.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. Transportation.
Say something.
TikTok.
So the master plan is great that you were able to tie in the master plan. I think the master plan had it as unused at the time. What's that?
Can you unmute for Joe?
Why did Joe need to? Sorry about that, Joe. Miss you, buddy. So it was unused at the time, so I think the compromise was to not have to make a decision on how to move it forward. When we developed that plan, it was trying to do a public-private partnership to share that. At one point, it was discussing it with the county, I think, to try to do something like that. You have an example of the building across the way, Cookies and Cream, so that's probably a case study on do's and don'ts in terms of having some discussion about whether or not to open it up. One thing we don't have is public restrooms, so I would think we would want to look at, one idea was to use that back bedroom as restrooms that could face out to the park. So that I would look at some opportunity to try to, take advantage of that and create an amenity for the park as well, but not impose your type of thing. Or what you're trying to do. Do you have a minimum number of events you'd have to do to make you whole, or?
We haven't quite gotten to that level yet, but one of the things we did consider is how to, talk to our contractor, is how to make that bathroom space robust enough that we're, like, maybe a door on the other end where people can come in and out and it still seems something nice. And so, yeah, we're looking at that.
What is the minimum number of events you need to be solvent, size, and number of events? These are all the details we could work out. Parking kind of came to mind in terms of being able to manage that with you. All those details we can think about.
As far as parking, if I could address that real quick, we thought about getting a van that we could basically utilize to shuttle people back and forth from the commuter lots. That's kind of for larger events.
You're already thinking. And the Baptist Church is usually very gracious about that as well. Fee schedule, have you thought about fee structure or what you might charge? Or
we haven't gotten that far down the road. My brother's an MBA. He's partnering with us, so he's going to help us make sure that our numbers are on point. But I just want to make sure that I drill home that whatever we do is for the community. If the community decides that they want events over at 7 o'clock, then events are over at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure we...
I think that's all. I guess the duration too. We get to those details as well. But I think it's a great idea to want to put time into it. Any idea the minimum? This may be another detail you haven't got into yet. 5-year minimum, 10-year minimum. Any idea of what minimum lease period you would need to?
To be honest with you, no, sir, I haven't.
Okay.
And that's probably one of those things that would be dictated by the dollar amount that needed to be put into rehab. So there's ways that we could address that but that would come forward with, what it sounds like is they can move forward developing a plan. We can move forward kind of looking at options for the town, and then we can come back a little later and kind of present all the details of what it would probably end up looking like.
To Steve's point, my last comment, to Steve's point, we probably need to be sensitive to how, it sounds like you're already anticipating how you arrange the uses and setup and takedown and those sorts of things. And I imagine if it's more often than not it's used, we're gonna have to think strategically on how to play well with the neighbors to be able to do that. But initially, it's a great concept. I appreciate you guys coming.
And to be honest, one of the only reasons I'm considering this, we're considering this, is because my wife just has so much experience in the marketing side and event planning side. That's what she does. So she has vendors and all the resources needed to do this stuff. So when it comes time to actually figure out the dollars and having the leverage and the Rolodex to do it, I'm going to be leaning on her to do that.
Thank you. One last thing. So when we did the master plan, there was a detailed write-up to improve it down to the number of sockets that had to be replaced. So
Right.
if you could find it, and hopefully it's on the server somewhere. If you can't find, but that might be useful to you, sort of seeing how people initially looked at trying to rehab the building. That may be of some value. So if you can't find it, I can try to find the contractor that did it for us, and maybe share. Work smart, not hard.
Stop watching YouTube while
I'm working.
Man.
Bob?
Here comes the voice of gloom and doom, possibly. All for it. Wonderful idea. And I've maintained for years that we have been poor stewards of that property. And we have not expended the effort that we needed to bring it up to snuff and to utilize it fully. And I've been whining and squawking about that for probably since we bought the property 16 years ago. Marshawn's already covered the public-private partnership aspect. I think I would insist on a formal P3 agreement of some fashion, where we lay out all the terms. I suspect it's going to be a longer term, just because I'm looking at the building. I'm real familiar with it, and I'm looking serious concerns about the cost of renovating it. Putting in a commercial kitchen, getting your health department licensing, and the inspections, all of that wonderful stuff. I'm just kind of run through these real quick. The bathroom issue having to be ADA compliant, and then whatever other requirements they make in the General Assembly this year for public restrooms, God knows what they're going to be. So that the immediate usage of the existing building, I think, would be covered quickly by that. The only thing that I've got a little bit of a concern with is who would and who wouldn't be charged. For example, we have a number of HOAs in the town that previously used this space. I don't know where they meet anymore since they were cut off from using this. But I would want to make it available either on a free basis or some marginal recovery cost for the various HOAs that need to have their monthly meetings. As far as further down the road, I'm assuming that the amphitheater would be stage 2 significantly after you get the main building up and running. I think we're going to have to consider how that's going to tie into both how we're going to finish the streetscape, what the scheduling for the streetscape is, because I think that's going to be important to the ultimate success or failure of it, is whether that streetscape is in existence or not, because it's going to provide better access to it. And then we've got a particular stormwater issue down in that corner where you've got it projected, which I think we also have to look at. One of the reasons that I'm going to be particularly in favor of this, I suspect, is we've been down this road before with trying to hold events as a town. And we've had some success and we've had some miserable failures. Cold hard fact is we do not have enough staff in town to manage, coordinate, advertise, do that whole 9 yards, and then still get their work done here. So if I can, quite bluntly, offload it on somebody else, I'll be more than happy to do it if it's in the interest of the town. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. The only other issue that I might creep up, and I'll address this to Marchant, is how is the ARB going to tie our hands?
We're with the government. We're here to help.
Okay.
Shot across the bow. It's all internal.
I can hear myself saying in the future,
Yeah,
we are not subject to our own guidelines.
No, the ARB vetted that plan, that master plan, and from what you're saying now, you're not changing the outside per se. If nothing else, you're going to upgrade the materials outside to make it more period specific. So
That's all I got.
But no, yeah, I don't see any initial issues.
And now Joe's waving his hand.
Yep, it's Joe's turn, right? Are you stepping down?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, your turn, Joe.
Can you all hear me? Can you all? Okay, you can hear me, great. Hey, Chuck and Joanna, I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Well, welcome, neighbors. Bob's actually Mr. Doom. I'm Gloom. But, and I can speak for Chuck and Joanna. They are good stewards of their property and Haymarket Station. I've even seen Chuck cutting his grass with a scissor. He's so meticulous, so I have no doubt he's going to put together something that's really fabulous for him and for us and for the community. And I think it's a great idea. I think everybody's hit on all the key points. Of course, as Churchill said, this is just the end of the beginning. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of details, agreements. Your business plan will be interesting to see. I did have the question as well regarding town events and how they would work with town events, so I'm glad there's been some preliminary discussion about that, and I think that's a great direction to go in. And it gives us a chance to kind of offload, as Bob said, some of those things and responsibilities, because we're not really properly staffed for that all the time. So I don't know if Chuck, if you guys can see it on the screen, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops, and I wish you a lot of luck.
Thanks, Joe. And we will work together to quarterly with the city. Again, we're going to remain flexible. We're going to take this one bite at a time. We're not going to be rigid. So if we need to develop a schedule quarterly, so the city has first dibs to go in for that quarter and say these are the dates that we need blacked out, that's what we'll do. Again, we're here to serve the community, so whatever we can do to make life easier for you guys as well as make something better for the community, that's what we want to do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm good.
I was going to ask if Emily had any comments, maybe initial thoughts.
Yeah. Emily? Oops, I'm mute. Emily, do you have any comments?
Who? I didn't hear the question.
Emily? Do you have any comments, concerns you have?
Mr. Mayor, comes around, can I just make another point? Maybe it's directed at Chris for him to pursue it with Emily. Is there any way we can start from now with adding foliage to block the residents from the back of the property? Maybe even now just start planting trees or shrubs. If there any way we can start with this budget instead of waiting until this proposal is on the table to then start, because we have to go that direction regardless. I think it is our responsibility to look at it to see if we can add any foliage there with those houses.
I think what we could do is we could look into just some different options and kind of get some prices for what it would take, just so we can kind of figure out what, if it needs to be a phase plan, if we could do it all at one time, just kind of what we're looking at. So I think, but yeah, me and Emily can work on that, try and get some numbers down just to get a realistic view of, and because it also depends on if we're going to install 1-year-old trees or are we going to install 5-year-old trees, you know, so those are the types of things where that's going to significantly change the cost. But here, I think Emily's, yeah, she's ready now. Go ahead, Emily.
Okay. Sorry about that. I couldn't hear. So yes, I did have feedback on the proposal. This is something that I've talked with the Masons probably since October. It's been a really great couple to work with and just talk a lot of ideas out. They're very passionate about the town. So I've enjoyed just going through this talking phase. But I think ultimately what it could mean for the town is that your 4 staff members can focus a little bit more on what services we provide. Me doing planning and zoning, Chris doing his thing, Roberto and Kim, having the opportunity to work with a community partner to really bring events in an event center and a community center that we can be proud of. So while we wouldn't be the owners and we wouldn't be doing it, all of us hands-on, they would be doing it. It's still something that we would be proud of. I think we could work very closely with them to help us with the Christmas event. When they shared their Christmas idea, it was something that I was like, we've always wanted this. We've always wanted that Hallmark Christmas. They can help us do it. As for Haymarket Day, I don't think it's them taking over events or us competing. I think it's a beneficial, we're helping one another, and they're just helping us elevate our community to the next level. So I'm very excited about it. I hope it's a great opportunity. I hope we can work through insurance, liability, cost, all of that stuff. But I think it would be a big positive for us.
Okay. I think, sorry. I think that's all the questions we have. Do you have any further questions for us?
No, sir. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you, man.
Okay, and we'll have the staff reach out with next steps.
Sounds good. Cool. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go on to the next agenda item, the 2020-2021 finance budget report.
Yes, so you can see that is in your packet. So Roberto should be on, so if you guys have any specific questions about it, we've noted basically key items that may need to be discussed if you guys have questions. But as of right now, we're looking good. As of today, one thing that's not on here, we have collected meals tax for December, and we should be at 50% for meals tax, bringing meals tax in, and we're actually at 57. So that's good. We're actually above where we need to be. So that's exciting. So we're still, our restaurants are still going strong. So.
Are we going to be doing the coupons again?
That is something that we can discuss. Actually, part of what I was going to do is in the CARES Act presentation, I was going to kind of go through a presentation and kind of give you guys a little bit of thoughts moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any questions about the budget stuff?
Roberto, are you there?
I'm here.
There we go. With respect to the fire funds, are we having a similar situation where it's difficult to dispose of those because of the Prince William County Fire Department, or where do we stand on dispersing those funds?
So I believe with those funds, Chris has met with a Prince William County department. I'm not sure which one, so I'll leave Chris to speak on that. I know we left it off that there was a discussion on how those funds could be used. But as I stated, Chris could speak to that since he had the meeting with his, I believe, chief.
Hold on, let me. So yes, with dealing with the fire allocation, it is rather difficult because what ends up happening is, as a, I don't know what that was, but as we have to allocate it as a town council, and then for the fire departments or fire and rescue to accept the funds, they have to, the Board of Supervisors has to approve it. So we were trying to get that on a schedule to move forward, and there was a little bit of difficulty, especially when we were last working on it. There was some changeover. So just trying to get that on the agenda. That is something that I do have a contact that we can work with to move forward, and I think we can make it work, but that's something where I do think we would have to request the assistance of Supervisor Canlin.
Okay, I mean, where I'm getting at on this one is, I want to get this moving, because we've had issues with them in the past where it's, just give us the money and we'll throw it in the general fund, and that's not how we operate. I mean, if we have to go back to the old practice of you go buy it and present us with a bill or a receipt for your whatever capital program you're funding with it, fine. But I don't want to do this dance for months. We had that issue with the previous fire chief. I don't know that we're going to have that with the current one.
So what I was actually dealing with is I forget his name, but I'll get it later. It was a battalion chief, and basically it was what this fire department here did, because it has to be primarily
24.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Right up here.
4 and 24.
And I think it was 24. But anyway, it was what they're primarily do. So one of it was they were looking at pools to collect. So like, let's say there was a leak, like a diesel fuel leak somewhere in the county, they would take those pools. So there's certain things, like we already had the process ready to go. They didn't purchase it yet because there was some logistical issues with just getting it across the finish line. So then I just asked for the quote. But unfortunately, we weren't able to finish that before the end of the fiscal year.
I don't even need a receipt from them. I just need a quote or some sort of, substantive plan for how they plan to expend those funds.
And so the only thing, though, is we do need it relatively wrapped up, because it does have to go to the Board of Supervisors for them to accept the funds. But
send me an email
I think we can
reach out to Supervisor Canlin, and I'll take care of it.
Let me reach out to that one battalion chief, make sure everything's still
hunky-dory.
Yeah, so we can still work that out, and then once we kind of get that scheduled, then we can, I'll let you know.
That's all I got on this one.
Oh, did Joe have something?
Joe?
I just sent an email to Roberto for chat.
So Councilman Pasanello wants me to see if I could talk about some of the highlighted areas in the budget. For the most part, I have a lot of the notes on the report, but one of the things that may pop out from this report that's unusual is this workers' comp. I know that when we had spoken about this at the beginning of the fiscal year, it was a front-loaded cost. As you can see, there's an additional cost that increased it that made it go over budget. This is something that may at times happen due to the fact that this workers' comp is an audit that's done after the fiscal year is closed, previous fiscal year, for the wages. For example, this would be the police department wages. The reason for the overage on this was because when we had done a workers' comp estimate, it didn't include the Laney detail. It wasn't a part of it at the beginning of the budget from last year. Obviously, that increased the cost to this line item as the officers' wages were higher than what we had originally estimated when we went into the renewal process. These are one of the items that I guess it showcases that it's not so cut and clear when it comes to these details. Matters like this should probably be considered in the future when it comes to these contracts, not just the vehicle fuels or the wages, hourly wages, but something like this is something that we can work on. I do have the rate for this, so this is something we could try to get a good estimate on, so we could adjust or amend the budget as needed, so we don't have the chief here sitting with a overdrawn line item. So that's something that I'll take into account for this coming budget and see what we can do, especially with this one currently as well, because it wasn't, well, it will be affected in next year's fiscal year, so I have to bring that over and try to accommodate that and give an estimate when it comes to that workers' comp due to the Laney detail. Another line item that the other line item, as you can see too, the additional funds from the 599 funds, I went ahead and placed it separately because it is not part of a grant. These are just additional funds that the state has given to localities. So that is something that when we come to amend, I hope to line item 3200. Right now, it's under the revenue from Commonwealth Other. But once we amend it, I hope to give it as its own line item. Depending on what the closed session discussion was, we'll go forward with. As Chris stated, on our revenues, we are doing pretty well, considering everything going on. My next report for next week will show that we are actually, I think it's about 50-something% versus a 40, there's a 10% difference between what we're bringing in versus what's going out, which is a good thing. It means that we're all watching how we're spending the money. Also, one item that I will speak of that is not on this report necessarily is that I was able to get our auditor to show up to the next work session to present on our CAFR for last fiscal year. This is the opportunity that he will be able, everyone was able to ask him questions as how is how the audit looked, how the state of the town's money is. That will be actually scheduled for our February 22nd work session. He was going to try to come in next week, but scheduling conflicts didn't allow that to happen. But we were able to get him to come in on the 22nd via Zoom to present that. I don't know if there's any specific questions from anyone, but I'm here to answer them if you do.
Go ahead, Bob.
Roberto, let's circle back to the lane detail for a second. How many weeks do we have left on that?
Actually, this week, I'm not sure if Chris has been able to share with everyone. We got an email over the weekend that the Laney detail has actually gotten an approval for an additional $25,000. This will bring the grand total to this Laney detail from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, a total combined of $175,000. I believe after this pay period, we would still have $32,375 left to bill, which roughly gives us about five payrolls that we can still bill. Bring them into. This will bring in the detail up to April, the first week of April's, the payroll on the first week of April 9th, I believe.
So if I understand this properly, they want to extend the detail?
Yes, sir. So last meeting, I believe I asked Chief Lands, because it was coming close, to try to gauge with them what the lady was thinking on doing when it came to the detail. If they're going to extend it or if they're just going to let it play out till the end, which we were thinking was going to be January. This weekend, Chief Lands got an email confirmation from Melody, who is the person that has been issuing these approvals, an additional $25,000. So that it gives the town an additional $32,375 that's approved already on their end to be billed.
So that's an additional 25 that's not in the budget currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And if council remembers, when we initially made the first amendment in November, even then there was an additional, I believe, 30,000 that did not make it during the amendment time. So yes, it's an additional amendment that we can all sum up in one.
Okay. I'm going to get my soapbox. I've maintained from the outset that this is a bad deal fiscally for the town. We just had it demonstrated that we're now eating additional workman's comp costs because of it. It's not covering cost under the current structure that we've got with them. So the terms of this agreement, in my view, need to be renegotiated, and need to be renegotiated before we up for another period of time. And that presumes, Chief, and I'm not even sure you can do this, do you have the manpower, given our shortage, to continue allocating a shift to Laney detail every night? Do you have enough hours available to where that's not going to create an operational problem for their regular duties?
Yes, with the current part-timers that we have, we're able to do that. And they said it was gonna go through March. We had enough funds to get through the middle of February, that this fund, we won't even end up using all of that 25, but it should be
My
done.
understanding is you are going to use up all of that 25 if we sign on to this, because that project is going to go on much longer than anybody thinks it is.
Yeah.
They are now admitting that they are, 6 months behind schedule on it, and they haven't completed the drilling under the highway yet. We are bleeding money on this. We need to either renegotiate it now or just cut it off and turn it over to the county.
Is that possible?
Yeah, we just say no.
But is it possible in the middle of the contract? Chief?
There is no contract.
They're asking for an extension.
They're asking for an extension. We just have to say no.
But are we bound by anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not disputing what you're saying, I'm just trying to look at the ramifications if we should say no.
Yeah, I don't think, from what we've seen so far, this has just been a purchase order, so this would be just an amendment to the purchase order. So I'm assuming, since this is amendment, we got to come back with a quote and do everything else, right?
Sprinkle holy water on it.
Yeah, so, we can up our quote.
Chief, what's your take on it?
It's up to the council.
No. I mean, I didn't ask the council. I
I
asked the
certainly
chief.
would love to keep doing it because it's more money in the officer's pocket.
That's what I want to hear.
Right now, it's not putting too much of a strain on it. But, yeah, according to the project manager, he told me it would go through March. But he also said it would end in December, and then pushed it to February, and now pushed it to March. So I'm not saying that you're wrong on that, but if you don't want to continue the way it is, I would ask that we would then negotiate if you want to do a higher rate, just so the officers can continue to do it. But either way.
So your recommendation, Chief, your recommendation is that we would continue doing it, but if it may be best for us to renegotiate.
That's not for me to say.
No, but, I mean, you would recommend that. Because one part of what you're saying is, yes, we should continue doing it. But from the feedback that we're getting financially, is the rate is not covering our expenses. So, if collectively the council decides to renegotiate and have you spearhead the renegotiation, you would be in
Yes, I'd
agreement
rather
with that.
do that than lose it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
One question. At some, what Bob was saying, at some point in time, it will start costing us. Has it done that yet?
Yes.
To what?
Several $1,000s. More than that, likely.
How?
Yeah, the workman's comp was upgraded by 16%. Isn't that correct, Roberto? And that was all strictly from the Laney detail,
Something like $3,000.
which is $3,000 according to what we have right here.
Because I'd hate to see them lose it. I agree with the chief. It's taking money out of their pocket. But I don't want to see the town to have to pay out of our pocket for doing them a favor. So I would say renegotiate it to cover our expenses.
What would that be, Councilman Weir? What do you think? Because right now, we're on the exact same rate that Prince William charges. So if they wanted to have Prince William, they would come in at 50, 45 with 5 going to them. So how are they covering their costs on every job times 50 all through the county, but we're not on ours?
PD's budget for Prince William
This
County?
is
I have.
$100 million.
Yeah,
But
I know.
I'm just saying, it's the rate.
Here's what I would suggest. Marcia, I apologize. Here's what I would suggest. We've been bleeding money on this from the outset because this isn't on you, Chief.
I understand.
This is on
The $5 wasn't taken out from the
a
beginning.
previous administration that found it fiscally responsible to turn the entirety of the the contractual monies paid over to the PD and do nothing about the cost. We've been subsidizing the detail. Here's what I'd like to see before next Monday, so we can, and I think this is a contractual issue we're gonna have to take in a closed session. Much as I would love to talk about this one in open session. What I would like to see, Chris and Roberto, I'd like to see a breakdown of what our actual operational costs are outside of the salaries of the officers, to include bennies, gas, workman's comp, anything else that we are subsidizing on, what is this, 8 to 10 hour shift every night? 8 hour shift.
And a 12 on Sunday.
Okay, well, there you go. I wanna know what this is costing us, so that we can determine a per hour cost based on, what was it, $50 an hour? I think, something like that? How much of that 50 we would have to claw back just to cover the operational side and make the town's budget whole, so that we're not subsidizing a private security detail for a third party out of Texas, so that we can then go back to them and say, if you want us to continue this and we want to continue to pay our officers X, then the amount that you're going to have to pay us on an hourly basis rises by whatever the percentage is, and here's the final amount. What I would also want to see, and this I need from you, Chief, is a 2-week sample schedule to include officers and their regular shifts, as well as how you would do the Laney shift, so we can get a sense of what kind of burden this is putting on the officers. Because I haven't looked at it recently, but my sense is it's pushing them close to the limits. I would like to look at something that will allay my fears above and beyond the fiscal issues. I apologize, Marshawn.
No, that's fine. So I had meant to share this earlier, perhaps next week, but I'd had a long conversation with a colleague that's a Fairfax County police officer, 30-plus years. I asked him questions about, is this typical when you have these sorts of contracts, that the local jurisdiction bears the cost of fuel and maintenance? And they said, yes, it's typical. And he also brought up a good situation. I had to call the police department at 11 o'clock at night. 11 o'clock at night? Remember when it was?
A little after.
There's a domestic disturbance in my neighborhood. Within probably 2 minutes, I had 3 Haymarket police officers at my door. Why? Because the Laney detail serve the town first. So, and there was a shift change. So he called me out on that. He said, do they not service the town first? Yes. And these sort of calls. So we're having someone subsidized so that we have 2 police officers, more or less, on 20, at least all-night coverage. So that was an interesting perspective. I'll share it with you, but that's one benefit I saw. So that's, again, my first question was, how do we recoup some of these costs, maintenance, wear and tear? It does seem typical that is something that's accommodated in these sorts of contracts. But again, we are allowed some additional police coverage. There is a benefit to it, although it's not clearly seen.
I can explain to you the dirty secret of how the largest jurisdictions pay this, having been intimately involved in the county budget and the county PD budget.
I didn't say it was right. I just said it was.
And here's how it's taken care of and how it's justified and why it doesn't apply to us. If you deal with a police department like Prince William County, Chief, do you know offhand roughly how many officers they have?
650.
That's 650 active ones, but
No, that's just a rough,
but I mean,
what they're supposed to
what they're
have.
supposed to have.
Yes,
They
sir.
never have that many.
That's right.
What happens with the PD budgets in those jurisdictions, the county executive or the county manager, whoever it is, budgets the department to the full cost of 100% employment. All the slots are filled. So they cover the bennies, they cover the salaries, they cover everything else. And then at the end of the year, they come back and they go, look how wonderful we are. We saved so much money on the police department. The reason they save so much police department money, and that translates to other county departments as well, is because they budget to 100% and are never beyond 85%, and sometimes not even 80% of their hiring quota, they automatically have this big bulge built into their budget. It's essentially a per department slush fund, and then they come back at the end of the year and the supervisors go, look how wonderful we are, we saved this much money. They don't tell you how much money they spent on overages like this, or subsidies like this, and then they hand this big gift basket to the board of supervisors and go, what do you want to do with all of this found money? What pet projects do you want to fund with it? And thus nobody gets called out on it. We don't have that luxury.
One last thing, because Gene will kill me. There was not a domestic disturbance at my house.
That's what we heard.
Not at my house, it was in the neighborhood. So let's be clear about this.
That's your side.
I'm waiting for Gene to text me and say, stop telling people our dirty laundry.
Mr. Mayor, I just had one thing. I appreciate the financial bit. First, that Bob and Joe and Roberto do, I'm amazed. And I have full faith and confidence. Yes, I said that, Bob. I have full faith and confidence. However, I don't see why we need to direct the chief to come back with a schedule. We've gone through this. We kicked this can down the road. If the chief says it's not putting a burden on them, why don't we respect him? He knows what he's doing. He's running the department. We're not.
I have fears, I just want them away, that's all I've got.
Well, how long are we going to beat our chief up with schedules? How long? When he says there's no problem, I don't believe he owes that to any of us. He's told us. It doesn't put a burden on his officers. Why don't we take his word for it? That's all.
Joe?
Well, I didn't think I'd open up this can of worms with my question originally, but it's a good discussion to have, and it's our responsibility, Steve. It's called oversight, and the chief reports to 7 people, and it's not beating the chief up. It's trust but verify. And if a council member has a question about something, then we better darn well answer the question. That's all it is. It's not picking on anybody. The chief is a capable guy. He can provide the information. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have comments?
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be good to get the information back from what Bob Weir requested a while ago in figuring out, hey, do we go back to say it's $51? Do we go back and say it's 55? I think that's reasonable. I think it's reasonable for us to ask for that over the next 2 months. But I think there needs to be some added discussion as far as this continuous postponement. Because it was postponed, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, it was postponed from the end of December, then it was postponed from the end of January, and now it's all the way through the end of March. And I think there needs to be a cap on it.
Or if there's not a cap, which I can't control, at least a contract that everyone feels good about.
Yes.
I don't mind going back with that. That would clear up a whole lot of stuff. Nobody would have the questions with the pay anyway, and then I'll provide the scheduling.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to second what Mr. Weir asked for in the calculations, just to bring it to council. Let us know what it is. What is the proper amount to alleviate what we've spent already, how much money we have thrown at this, and we need to, as a council, stop discussing the fact that most of us, if not all, disagree with how this contract came about. We inherited it. This is our job. It's ours now. We own it. Regardless of who signed the contract or made the arrangement, it's ours. And we need to do whatever is necessary for us to make sure that we're not bleeding from it.
I don't necessarily want to recover what we've already lost. I mean,
Just going forward.
no crying over spilt milk. I just don't want to extend the circumstance further unnecessarily.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Sure.
And so, just for understanding, we have on the tasking, operational costs, I guess that'll be worked with Roberto, and sample schedule from the chief.
Roberto's going to have to get together with the chief on the operational costs.
And we can do that pretty quickly, and then I can approach Melanie and say, this is what we need to have going forward, and then they can make a decision if they want to go to Prince William for the $50 versus us for 55, or whatever it comes out to be. It's up to them.
I think that's fair.
We'll have several options available to us, but we've got to determine what the true cost is first.
Sure.
Agree.
The initial allocation, as Roberto said before, would take us through the middle of February. So we have time for you guys to make your decision next week on what you'd like to do, and I can approach her and say, going forward, this is what we'd like to do.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So we good? Any more questions on the budget?
Roberto has something.
You have something, Roberto?
Too, that, for example, just to give an idea to council as a whole, Bob, to go into your question on operational costs, using the rate that we currently have, just to get an estimate, say on the 50,000, said that we have gotten to 30, but say just 50,000, we're looking at around $1,600 more in workers' comp. I believe looking at the budget too.
So that's 3.2% right there.
Right, but I know, I understand where everyone's coming from, but it is just trying to give a perspective, like on that, like on a $50,000 amount, we're talking about an additional $1,600 when it comes to workers' comp. That's something that Chief and I can get back together. If he works on his budget, or we could work on his budget, but trying to make sense of everyone, for everyone, but it is doable. It's just that if we're talking about operational, it's talking about $1,600 on like a $50,000 pot of money right now.
It's not simply the workman's comp, it's the other allied stuff as well. What is the fuel, what is the maintenance, what is the other stuff that goes with it? And it all adds up over time. My guess is it's somewhere in the 10% range at the end of the day, and that's what I want to see.
Also, we've had Martin work out a couple contracts for going forward for other jobs at 50, 45 plus 5. So if you want to do that with this one, then you may want to adjust the next one. Just know Prince William is at 50. So
Understand,
we
but
don't compete if you go higher.
if according to what Roberto is saying, at $50,000, $1,600 is what we would pay over. For the $25,000 that they just signed off, that's 0.03%. That's not. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's $800, 0.03%. That's not even close to 10%. So,
There are other costs that are not.
yes, and I understand all of that, the additional costs. So if you just look at just that big figure, $25,000 that they're saying they're signing on for an additional service, and it's going to cost the town $800. That is not 10% of the money that they're paying us. It's just 3%. So that's a good way to look at it and incorporate all the other expenses to come up with, I don't know, $51, whatever it is. But so that's going to be good information for us to have next week.
And for the argument I made earlier, some would argue that if you get that double coverage, is that worth $1,600, despite the other costs? But
Yeah.
We'll have that next week.
Mm-hmm. I look further than that, though. I look at an opportunity to offer our guys opportunity to make more money.
Well,
from
that's without question.
Yeah.
It's just this added
So
benefit.
yeah. So I look at that as something where and here's a way how we can bless, the lowest paid PD in this region. So.
Okay, let's move on. Any more questions for Roberto? Trying to see Joe on here. I don't see Joe. Okay. Then we'll go to the next item. We have a take-home vehicle policy.
PowerPoint Ranger? PowerPoint Ranger for the
Mr. Mayor, Council, thanks again for the opportunity to share earlier with the staffing. And as we venture into another aspect of the police department, I do want to bring up the aspect of the take-home vehicle. It's been 2 months since the policy has been enacted for the take-home vehicles, for the officers not to be able to take home their service vehicles. And now that we have the facts, I would like to present to you what the numbers reveal. I think it is important because leading up to this discussion, there were assumptions, and now that we have certain concrete evidence, I mostly looked at 2019, the last 2 months, and 2020, the last 2 months, to come up with these numbers, comparisons over the last 6 months in general, but the last 2 months in particular. For salaries and wages, there was an adjustment that was made by the council to reduce that amount by 70%. I'm just throwing out some numbers just so that you can see where we've been in the last 6 months and decisions, particularly in the last 2 months. Vehicle fuel, in 2019, $9,200, and in 2020, $7,600. There's a reduction of 17%, $268 per month that we have been saving on fuel costs, give or take $1 or $2. Vehicle maintenance and supplies, $7,100 in 2019, $4,900 in 2020, a reduction in 30%, and that gives us $365 per month, $4,380, and the total is there $5,535. That's an annual amount of how much we've saved. What does it cost? Here's a question. What does it cost? What did it cost the town to take away the vehicles from our police department annually? And the answer is $5,535. Before I move further in making my proposal, if you look at the numbers, $461 per month is the actual amount that it cost us, because a portion of the vehicle maintenance was fixed items that were one-time expenses. So areas, I also looked with the police chief, also looked at areas that we could find this money to present to the council. If the council so wishes not to reenact this policy for the take-home vehicles, that the police department could actually find areas where we could support and find this money. $4,000 from salaries, wages, overtime, premium, bringing it to $16,000. $2,000 from internet, computer, website. $1,000 from other supplies, and $2,000 from uniform and police supplies, bringing it to $9,000. And the reason I went over the $5,565 is because there's some added costs. It's not just what you saw with fuel and maintenance. There's some added costs that's there. So we can recover this money associated with this cost from other areas within the department if the council chooses not to go the route of approving this amount. My two big questions is, can we afford to spend an additional $5,535 on the police department? And could we possibly reinstate the take-home car policy to all the officers, not just to the two senior officers, the chief and the lieutenant? The Haymarket Police Department, we are already being paid less than other larger agencies in the area, and the take-home policy would look more attractive in terms of a hiring perk. Now, we've spent some time discussing the fact that every agency in this region and probably across the nation, they're having problems hiring officers. Whether it be that a police officer's position doesn't look as lucrative within the last 2 years in particular, but whatever the reason is, we need to give the chief as much ammunition as possible to make his hiring process more presentable to those potential officers, making it look more attractive. We can recover the money associated with this cost from other areas within the department. Haymarket, we already are paid less. The take-home policy would look more attractive, and designated patrol cars can be left on site for part-time officer use, which is already being done. There was a question about the Laney detail, and the chief was tasked to come up with a general amount. A 30-day month, which includes 26 8-hour shifts and 4 12-hour shifts, at $2.39 a gallon, equates to $240 per month. That is what we pay for fuel costs, $240 a month for the vehicle to sit there each night, 8 hours during the week and 12 hours on Sunday. Just want to say it again, $240 a month. Budget associated costs, if the council wishes not to entertain funding the vehicle take-home policy that was in place when we took office, will the council consider allowing the chief to fund this item from the budget? Now, I know there will be discussions concerning wear and tear and other things that I may not put on this presentation, but this is what I want to resurrect to the council as a whole. We have talked about staffing, and now I want to revisit the take-home policy. 2019, again, here's the recap. $461 a month, or $5,535 annually. We can recoup the savings from the PD budget, the $9,000, if the council wishes not to move forward with it. So the two questions posed to the council is, can we reinstitute the take-home vehicle policy and fund it from the town's budget, or can we reinstitute the take-home vehicle policy and fund it from the police department? That's all I have, sir. Thank you for your time.
Marchant?
Councilman Morris, quick question on the cost you in your opening slide. That was specific to take home. That wasn't
just take home.
We were able to isolate just to that. Any idea what the 2 separate years? Initially, I thought, well, if you even have Laney on top of that, we're still in the negative.
That's true, and that's why I included the Laney detail, because like other council members, I thought the Laney detail would have come out more expensive on fuel.
Okay. I want to give Joe a chance first.
1 second.
Okay.
That's right. Hey.
Pardon me? About this? Oh, about the weather? No, it's nasty. It's the ice out there that's creating the issues.
And Kim says thank you for that, for keeping her here.
You gotta go to Remington, right?
Yeah. Okay, you all set, Chris?
Yes, sir.
So we'll set Joe up for his questioning.
Talking to me?
Talking to you.
Oh, okay. Well, personally, I have no appetite for entertaining this at this time. I think this could be something we can discuss for the next budget going forward. I think there has to be limitations in, I think we even talked about that previously, that there should be, if we were to approve a policy, that there would be limited as to the miles from the center of town. I think we need to look at that. I think we need to really do a benchmark or a peer review versus some of our competitors, meaning other departments, see what they allow as a policy and how they fund it. I have a lot of questions about that. I think we have some time to go through it and do it right if in fact we decide we want to do it. But at this point, I appreciate what Chris and Kevin did, putting that together, but I don't think now's the time. And I would like to know what other thoughts that the treasurer and the town manager have, and what their thoughts are on the numbers that were presented. Are they aware of the numbers? Can they confirm the costs? And some other things. We can't discount the maintenance and the wear and tear. I mean, how do we place a number on that? You know, we could use something like an IRS cost per mile. I mean, when I was in business in the rail industry, we had a operating cost per mile for each vehicle we were able to put together to get a better understanding of what that cost is. That might be something to be looked at. And by the way, the other thing is, having all these vehicles, there are additional costs associated with liability, with insurance, the fact that we're going to have to replace the same number of vehicles when we don't have a take-home policy doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I don't think we're going to need 5 or 6 vehicles. We might be able to get it down to 4, perhaps. So there are a lot of questions I have regarding this that I think we have to go through before we even consider going forward with an idea like this.
Go ahead, Bob.
First off, let me remind everybody, when this issue last came up, I was the one that was in favor of drawing a circle on the map, and for some reason, Chief, whoever didn't want to draw the circle on the map and take them away. So we're back where we are. We're at where we're at. I wish you guys had talked to Joe and I about the numbers, because the numbers are wrong. We've looked at Sheets bill every month since the policy changed. It's significantly more than $461 on average. You can't compare 19 to 20 because the fuel costs, or the policy wasn't in place for a majority of FY 20 or calendar year 20. It was only for the last 4 months?
2.
That's more than 2.
No, it's 2.
It's been 3 gas bills at least.
The comparison was made between the last 2 months.
We've been looking at the discrepancies or the changes in the gas bill, and it's significantly more than $500 a month on average. And it projects out to significantly more. I think we need to sit down with Roberto and figure out what the true savings is on Sheets. I've got similar concerns to Joe's with respect to mileage, or to the wear and tear. If we're going to do, I think if we're going to do this analysis, and I mean, I've got no problem going, drawing a circle, 20-mile circle on the map and saying if you live within this circle, you can take the vehicle home. But I don't think sending it beyond that 20-mile arc is serving us any purpose, especially, they're certainly not going to be here in an incredibly quick response time anywhere outside of a 20-mile circle. I think if we're going to bring this back, we need to know what the numbers are first. We need to sit down with Roberto, figure out what the cost savings have actually been in the time period that the take-home vehicles have been removed, and get a better sense of what the savings are. We've already adjusted the budget to account for that at the last budget amendment we did. So we would have to tweak it again. I don't know that now is the time to do it. I'm not necessarily opposed to going back to some sort of compromise. I've always said 20 miles is fine with me. I don't know what anybody else's particular distance is, or if they want to make it unlimited. But I'm with Joe. We're not right to do this tonight. We need a little more numbers. I mean, I think we could easily get them before next Monday, but I don't think we should be touching it tonight until we get the actual numbers from the treasurer's office.
these numbers aren't numbers that came from the chief. These are numbers that came from the treasurer. So unless,
Did they come
on,
from the sheets bill, or did they
so-
come from the aggregate totals for the year?
totals. So unless you have another budget and the treasurer has a separate budget, then that's an issue that we dealt with in last council with liaisons having separate budget from the treasurer. So these numbers came from the treasurer.
What I'm saying is you didn't look at the proper subset of numbers. You can't compare the entirety of 2020 to 2019 because only a portion of 2020 was impacted. You can't draw the average.
These are averages that were used with November and December of 2019 and November and December of 2020. Those are the 2 months that were used in drawing the comparison.
What I'm
So,
looking at is month over month from the reduction to the point where, from prior to the reduction to where the reduction in take-homes went. And that's where the true cost analysis is gonna come on the amount, on the number of gallons of fuel bought and what the cost is. Because you gotta remember, fuel costs also vary from year to year and month to month. So you need to do an analysis of pre-policy and post-policy and what the impact is on a percentage basis. Because comparing it year over year because of the different variables that are in place, unless you account for all of those variables, fluctuating fuel prices, number of officers on duty, how far they live from here, if they're taking them home. There's a lot of things that need to be taken into account, and what we saw immediately in the first clean month after the policy changed was a significantly higher savings in the gas bill and the number of gallons of gas burned. Again, I'm not averse to coming up with some middle ground on this, but simply going back to the way it was, it is not currently budgeted for. And if we're going to go that route, or if we're going to go some middle of the road route, we need to determine what the cost is going to be, because we're going to have to adjust the budget appropriately.
and that's the whole point of this presentation, to get the conversation going. This presentation is, yes, you may have, 1 or 2 council members might have their opinions on what they feel we should not entertain, but this needs to be a council decision if we should entertain it. So since we openly discussed it, we are looking, and we spent a lot of time looking at the hiring process. We've spent a lot of time discussing the conditions in finding qualified officers to fill the positions within the police department. And this is one of those perks that could supplement the position that we're in. So for me, in resurrecting this is just for us to discuss it and to see if it is something that we would entertain. Whether we draw a circle, erase the circle, for me, that's all things that we discuss along the way in getting to a decision.
Mr. Mayor? Yeah, just a couple things. I was one, first of all, I was opposed to taking away from the cars from the start. I'm the one who said a 50-mile radius because it's almost 50 miles to the backside of Prince William County. Someone had said you had to live in Prince William County, but Loudon's only 8 miles out the road. Fauquier's only about 4 miles out the road. So I'm the one who mentioned draw a circle, make a 50-mile radius or whatever. But I agree that we need to look at the overall cost. We know gas is going up now. It's going up 20 cents in the last couple weeks here. So we know that cost is going to be higher. But I appreciate you bringing it up. I think it's worthy of discussion. I'm confident that this council will look at the bottom dollars and come up with the right decision. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else with comments? Okay.
We're moving right along.
I guess one question I have is moving forward on this, when do we want to try to gather whatever information we need and base a decision on this?
I'm not sure it'll be ready for Monday night discussion, but maybe next work session? Chris, what do you think? To discuss, I mean, to have the figures and stuff?
I think Joe and I can have it easily by the next meeting.
For by next Monday, you mean, or the
Work session, or?
I think-
By Monday.
I think that's a good start, just to make sure that I'm not being told that the numbers are off when I got the numbers from the treasurer. And again, I just hope we're not using two separate books.
No, I don't think it's that. I think we have to, I think the parameter that we need to look at isn't necessarily the cost, because that's gonna change as a result of a variety of variables. I think probably the most telling number, and the one that is quite easy to divine, is the gallons per month. And that way you eliminate the
Yeah.
cost variable.
Yeah, I mean, you did have a high-level estimate on these figures and everything. Right off the top, it looked like previous costs were 13, and the reduction was 5,500. So you are looking at a savings of almost 50%. You know, it may be insignificant. That's the thing we got to determine, is if we feel it's insignificant, or if we do need to look at it even deeper. Marchand?
For Monday?
I was gonna say, I was not part of the previous discussion. I was not here for that vote, and I apologize, I had a work conflict. I do agree with Chris that looking at all the other ways, fringe benefits to help recruit, it's worth going after and considering, but I would agree with, we need to do the financials. I was just gonna suggest if there's a way the three of you guys can meet, maybe hold a fiscal impact, or hold a fiscal committee.
That would violate the FOIA statute.
Put it on the calendar, and so the three of you guys can talk it out, but hopefully you guys can compare your methodology and revisit as soon as possible. I guess the only question, Mr. Mayor, I would have is if we tie this over to the budget discussion, it won't be till summer till we even revisit it again, right?
You know, we'll be revisiting the budget, I think, starting next month.
With the adoption, I guess, the
Coming
adoption.
up, yeah.
The draft budget, where you're calculating what your expenditures are going to be for FY '21 or '22, will begin as early as next month. In fact,
February.
we're already starting it.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that the discussion starts, but the decision on it is still a couple months
You'll
out.
have a draft budget before the end of April.
But we vote on the budget in May.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all the point I'm saying, is that we gotta put it together and then act on it. So.
Joe, you have a comment?
A couple of things. There are no two sets of books. This council doesn't operate that way. It may have been before, but we don't operate that way. The other thing, Bob, I think we need to look at is the impact on the CIP as well. Because depending on the policy itself, it could have an impact on the number of vehicles. So I think that has to be part of the discussion.
Sounds like a big task to me. Are you willing to produce something in a week's time, Bob? Joe?
It's not that hard.
Okay. Then we'll see something at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All it requires is collating a couple of data points from Eatsville, to be honest with you, to give you a good sense of, we can take it back. We could probably take it back a full year, just to give you a sense of it, what the variance is in terms of miles and gallons per month, because I think that's gonna give you a better sense than the actual cost per month, given the variance in fuel costs.
Okay.
So my question is, at what point do you and Chris reconcile and get on the same page? I'm not saying there's two sets of books, but where do you guys share this? You gonna wait till the next meeting to share it? Or can you guys
We'll be
talk
ready
about it
on
ahead of
Monday,
time?
yeah.
What's that?
We'll be ready on Monday.
Okay.
And again, I think I've accomplished the goal that I set out to accomplish, which is resurrect the point and let's talk about it. Because for now, it's a moot point. But if we're looking at recruiting, if we're looking at the issues surrounding hiring and the issues that the chief is having in finding officers, I think this could be an added bonus to give to him that he could use right now.
Yeah, and if we're looking at it as a recruiting, then that can't be put off till April or May. So, yeah, okay. Good discussion, though.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on. We're to the budget amendment discussion.
Yes, so I just wanted to reach out, as Councilman Weir stated, we are going to have another budget amendment for the third quarter, but we are getting ready to wrap up the final punch list for the Jefferson Street project, so we kind of got these numbers finalized to include with the numbers from the CAFR, the surplus from last fiscal year. So just some of the numbers that I wanted to report on, which will be taken care of at the basically third quarter amendment, or when we do make the next large amendment. We actually received an additional $23,000 in reimbursement funds, so that's part of the reimbursement with the VDOT and the whole project of itself. We also accounted for some of the surplus from FY20, but we did a pretty conservative number. So now that the CAFR's done and everything's over, it looks like we are going to see an increase in surplus carryover by $72,417. So now that's an increase in reimbursables for the project, then an increase in carryover surplus from FY20. And then, however, the only downside, which I think comes to no surprise to this council, with the Columbia Gas increase, M&F increase, and the time, as well as it extending from August is when it was supposed to be done to now, there is a $30,000 increase. And just for example, 15 of that was just to pay Columbia for that gas mishap, the gas line mishap that they had to come in and fix for us. So that was just something that wasn't budgeted. But still, we are going to end this project relatively good. It looks like we'll have a net income left over from the carryover surplus and the reimbursement and everything of $44,000. So that's just something that I wanted to report on, to basically finalizing this project. And what is about to come forward is there will be about $44,000 that we can use for CIP fundings or some of the other projects that I'm going to be presenting tonight.
Good stuff.
Start with you, Chris.
Could you give me like a 2-sentence summary why we have to pay Columbia Gas?
Because they did work.
Yeah, but who caused it?
The line was mismarked on documentation. They had to reroute it to fit our
And
sewer
it was a gas line that was, I think it was 10 or 12 feet down underground, and with the way the plans were, they just needed to move it a couple inches, but since they had to go dig down the 10 feet and move it, there's a couple inches in the extra piping and everything. That's what.
Guess what I'm trying to get at is who marked the pipes and for us to be liable for them busting it.
Columbia Gas. Their map as well.
So Columbia's.
Every gas line in town.
So let me just get this straight. I just want to get the facts. So Columbia Gas, their plans are wrong. They marked the lines, they busted the lines, and we paid for it.
Well, there wasn't any busting, it was just moving.
Yeah, so they didn't bust it. What happened is we got the information for the plan to move forward. However, where we had a stormwater system, one of those big water collections, it basically was going to have to go exactly where this line was. And it wasn't feasible. So that's where they had to move it.
So there's the engineering adjustment required because, the engineering was done with the markings that were supposedly on the utility map to begin with.
The cast culvert that couldn't be replaced.
And I mean, that's the whole thing is I think we were pretty accurate. We were basically, if we would have had a 10% contingency instead of a 5%, we would have come within budget, even hitting the gas line and having to move the gas line and everything. So, and that's the other thing is we also had additional costs because M&F putting the plates down and having to affix them to make sure that we were up to VDOT standards. And then we also had Rinker Design, RDA, who's the project manager. They actually helped us because originally Columbia was trying to bill us for the full 30, or it was for the full amount, and there was a breakdown. Basically, a percentage was from the town, and then they had to match a certain percentage. So we can get you the full numbers, but they did have to cover a portion. We didn't pay for the full cost of moving the entire line. So it was.
I really don't need to see the numbers. I just want to see, I just want to clarify more.
First time it's happened in town, in fact, you go across the street in front of the Foster's building, along with Foster's Restaurant, and the building next to it, and you ever wonder why there's that hill? That's because the gas line was several feet above where it was supposed to be, as I recall.
Yep.
Which changed the engineering and the design of that thing.
And it's just like across the street, right, with the Verizon lines. They're having to, the hotel is actually having to move some of the utilities themselves as well to fit their construction. Now, Bob, you have some other
Yeah, I just
comments?
have a point, with respect to the change in the carryover and the surplus. It's not as simple as it seems. A lot of that is from taking CARES funds and crediting them against FY '20, and we did this intentionally, crediting them against eligible FY '20 expenditures so that we could take monies and have more flexibility in FY '21. So it's sort of an accounting gain, and using, because of when the CARES Act funds were made available, even though we didn't make use of them in FY '20, we could still go back because of the parameters within which we were allowed to use them and use them against FY '20 costs that carry and create a surplus that we could then drag over and use this year. If that makes sense.
We used CARES Act funds for last fiscal year to increase the surplus.
All done legitimately, of course.
Yeah. On one book. Right, Joe?
Yeah, any questions or comments for this adjustment? Okay, so next item, CARES Act presentation.
All right, so this is the, hold on, let me see. I don't think
This is why you live on the west side.
Chris, while you're setting that up, the reason I asked earlier is I've talked to various businesses here. They absolutely praised us for that. And you're going to show us how much was actually used?
So what this will be is, I presented this at the Business Roundtable. We've got a lot of other numbers to include nonprofits, certain things that we purchased, like the server and laptops, and just getting all the dollar amounts sorted out for those items. But this is specifically and only things that benefited the businesses. Okay. And this is what I presented to them. So this was one, we did the business grants. We had allocated $105,000 for business grants. This would allow up to $2,000 grants for 50 businesses, to include 5% processing fee with our agreement with the Prince William County IDA. Only 12 businesses were able to receive the grants, completed all required documentation. We did have one nonprofit reach out and apply, but unfortunately this was specific to businesses, retail businesses and restaurants. So all of them that completed all the required documentation received the funds, and there was the $2,000 grants with the 5% processing fee. So for 12 of them, it was $24,000 worth of grants went to the businesses, and then that 5% charge, that's the $1,200 you see there. Then the voucher program, which is what we were discussing, we had allocated $55,000 for the voucher program. The cost was minimal, so for designing it, printing it, and mailing the vouchers to all the residents, it was $617.05. That came out to about 33 cents per voucher that was sent out, so that's where, I said it was minimal cost. So we mailed out the 4 vouchers of $25 to 460 residents in the town, so $46,000. The residents spent $26,475 at the vouchers, so that's actually 58% usage. And we had 17 businesses complete the application and return those vouchers to Town Hall, which, like Councilman Shannon said, we got a lot of good feedback from it, and I think that if we were to try and do it again, I think people would be pretty quick to sign up.
think that percentage would go up drastically.
And that was the other thing, is just a reminder, is we allocated the CARES Act funds in October, so we had 1 month to get this organized, to send it and get it to the residents, to get it by November, and then they had to use it by December so we get the funds out. So you're correct. This is a program that essentially from 0 to full steam ahead was less than 1 month. So if we had something where, for example, we can use the CARES Act money until December 30th of 2021, that means that we could do a 2 or 3 month program to allow more time for usage. So I do think that you would see an increase there. So then what we also did is we did the town social media advertisement. We partnered with Prince William County Tourism for the Town of Haymarket page. So if you actually go to visit PWC, you can actually see under towns, we have a full list that I can actually bring up here real quick. But now the town actually has a full page on, I guess I don't have internet access, but
in Jamaica it's VISIT. Just so you know. Just want to put it over. Yeah.
I don't know nothing. See. So if you go under here, you can see, where are we at? Hold on, let me unplug this real quick, because I'm not. But anyway, so we partnered with Prince William County to have under their page a full comprehensive list of all the businesses here in the town of Haymarket. Oh, there it is.
Every business?
To my knowledge, we have every business. We had a part-time person go through and help us check with everybody. We don't have like the best pictures of all of them, but that's actually something that we're working on now to try and help. So see, you've got About Haymarket, and it's got basically the history, and then you've got different wineries, the museum, the farm brewery, Silver Lake, things to do, and then you can go eat, drink Haymarket. So there's all kinds, cookies and cream. So there's all kinds of different things here that it provides the business with different photos, Yelp reviews, address, phone numbers, so all this stuff. And then you can also add a trip, so you can add all this stuff. So this is something that we partnered with Prince William County to really audit their website that they already have. So they have it, they maintain it. We just made sure all the information was correct. And that's where, I don't know if you guys are on Facebook or Instagram, you may have seen the actual ads that we had from whether it was Ash Salon or A Dog's Day Out, or so we had a bunch of different just generic photos to use for those different ads, and that was pretty successful. That's where, I'll bring this up. So from December 1st to December 31st, it was 602,000 impressions, so people scrolling past it, but we had 276 reaches, which basically what I'm told is that's where they take a second to look at it and kind of see, oh, this is the town of Haymarket. And then their link clicks, so they actually clicked on the pictures to go to the website and really look at it. It was 8,300. So we had actually contracted for 1,200 clicks with this one ad agency that we partnered with the county. So that's why you'll continue to see those advertisements, because basically just asked if they would be willing to continue to run the ad until we got to that 12,000. So they agreed. So we're going to continue to see it January, February until we get to that 12,000 number. We also did an advertisement campaign over the radio. So this was, we partnered with Wink FM. I brought it to the Business Roundtable, basically just to ask them if they think we should focus on radio, spend a decent amount of money on doing radio ads, or if we should do something like a video. The businesses actually were the ones that recommended we focus on the video, which you all saw last meeting. So what I did do, though, is we did partner with Wink FM, and as you can see, we really focused it right around Thanksgiving, when people probably would be in their cars. So we ran a total of 70 ads, and that was 292,000, just under 300,000 impressions, and then the average daily impressions was about 42,000. So with the, we ran it for 7 days, so each day that we ran it, there was about 42,000 people that heard it, just averaging it out. Then with the business video, this is something that we've already discussed, but I just shared it with the Business Roundtable to kind of let them know the timeline of what we did, how we emailed all the businesses saying we were looking for 5 to 10. We received the 12 emails within 3 hours. And we posted the video. It was to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And this was as of January 11th. YouTube had 94,490 views. Facebook had 40,900, which now I think we're closer to 41,500. And then Instagram is still right around the same, about 1,400 views. So that just, we did advertise on YouTube and Facebook, so that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit higher than Instagram. So basically just a summary of what we were able to do with the CARES Act money. We were able to provide $24,000 in business grants aid. We were able to provide $26,475 in voucher aid. The social media ads had 602,000 impressions and reached 276,000 users. The radio ads had just under 300,000 impressions. And then the town business video had 136,000 views. That is all of the things that we were able to do with the CARES Act money, like I said, between October and December. So 3 months. Really, it was 1 month of planning and then 1 month to execute, and then the last month is just to pay them those different funds. So that's something where with the remaining money, we're still finalizing it, just like Councilman Weir said, there are certain things that we can spend it on. For example, legal for CARES Act and different things like that that we're using. But my main reason for bringing this up is because I would like to continue to try and focus on the businesses. We have donated a substantial amount of money to nonprofits to assist residents here in town with different things. That may be something where if the need is heard, that we could keep some to make a donation to those different nonprofits. But I do think one of the main things that we owe it to the businesses is really try and help them get through COVID so that we can continue to have these businesses here in town after we're done and on through the other side. So that's really, I just want to get some directive from council if it's okay that we continue to try and focus on assisting the businesses with the CARES Act, or if you guys have different priorities.
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, it's, you know, I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and I'm not going in the wrong direction.
I can go first and just telling you, man, you're doing an unbelievable job.
You didn't raise your hand. Go ahead, though.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're doing a great job, man. I mean, just the way you've approached it and the short time to turn it around, just amazing numbers. Offering $24,000 in business grants and the vouchers bringing in $26,000. That's huge for the businesses. And the food was good. I mean, social media, reaching all those people on social media. And I don't know who listens radio anymore, but 292,900, that's amazing, the numbers. So, and the video was a hit. So I think you're gonna have a problem. I think I said this the last time, you're gonna have a problem with the next video. I know you're gonna have a problem.
To do better?
Nope, not to do better, but the people which 12 you're gonna choose, you're gonna have a problem. I don't know if it's possible to choose 12 different companies and in some way have both videos there, you know, that people could click on past videos and current video. So then you'll be able to capture 24 businesses.
Well, and that's what, in the video, it's still up on our website, so it's not going anywhere. It'll continue to be on the website. It'll be on the YouTube page. It'll also be on the Instagram page. So all those things are going to continue. And I think you're right, but that's a problem I like to have, is that businesses want to participate and want to be involved in whatever we can do to help.
I have one question. How can we be sure that we did not miss any company?
To be honest with you, that's probably the one shortfall, is because we had such a short period of time that the 100% verifying that we had all the accurate information. Like I'd mentioned before, there have been certain times that I've talked to business owners, and they're like, I didn't get the email, and when well, which email did you provide for your business license? It's their bookkeeper. But at the same time, there is a certain standard that, the business, we have to reach out to them some way, and if we don't have the accurate information, there's nothing more we can do. And I mean, I walked 2 businesses to talk to owners and managers to give a one-pager about the voucher program, about the business grants. So, we try to do it that way. So between sending emails, walking, and doing it in person, if we didn't have the contact and the business was closed when we had the opportunity to walk by on top of everything else, I do think we gave it a good college try to get everybody that we could to know what was going on. We spoke about it at the Business Roundtable. We invited everybody to the Business Roundtable. It was on the agenda that we were going to talk about it. So I do think we really tried to get it out there.
My question is not a matter of performance. It's how could we correct it if we're missing any?
May I say something? I think that the more involvement that we have from just being consistent in the Business Roundtable and getting out there and being seen, it's going to happen kind of organically with businesses coming to make certain that we have all of that information provided.
I don't know if you'll ever get 100%, but what happened to those? Because we've signed off. We've signed off on a few home businesses. There's a couple of baking companies, couple of things. There was a gunsmith, I think, the last time. How do we make sure that we're covering all of them?
So with the business license, when they apply, they provide all their information. So that's what we go through and make sure that if it's the same information that we have, then good. If it's an updated email, then we change it. So that's something that we do audit, like our business list. But like I said, if it's a bookkeeper or an old email, or they don't provide some type of information. But we are working to try and get a good comprehensive list. But I also think, to your point, that businesses saw the video. There's a responsibility on their side. They saw, what we were doing, so they reached out to me to say, hey, I wanted to be involved. And then it's like, well, this is the email I sent it to. Oh, that's not my email. So then we got everything corrected. So then moving forward, I think, we'll just have, and that's also something that, in the past couple of years, we haven't been very involved in helping the businesses. So I think now that we are getting a little bit more involved and really focused on helping businesses, I think they'll want to participate and they'll want to reach out and help. And I've had those conversations with businesses saying, hey, if you ever need any help, please reach out to me. Of course, after we did the video and after everything was seen, but those are things that they really do want to get involved now. So I think we'll just continue building on the success and keep it going.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Joe, you want to get Joe next? Mr.
Okay,
Mayor,
we'll
he's
hit
been
Joe.
Just a couple points, Chris. Sorry about that. Just a couple points, Chris. On your presentation, I think it would be something to consider laying out where all the monies went, not just the voucher and the businesses all on one, I guess, spreadsheet or whatever you want to call it. The nonprofits as well, so people can see and understand where it all went in your summary. Just a suggestion. And I'm certainly in favor of supporting the businesses and focusing on businesses, but I also feel it would be very beneficial to also do something with the residents again, because it seems in your results that serving the residents also served our businesses, so it's a twofer. And I think we should consider that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So just speaking to that, like I said today, this report was just for what was done with the businesses. We will, when I get the full report and all the full numbers, we're going to have the totals for the nonprofits. We'll have the totals for legal, the laptops, the server, the picnic tables for out front, as well as the museum. There's a whole gambit of different things that we've done. And then I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that, we did actually donate $105,000 to nonprofit organizations. So we almost donated twice as much to nonprofit organizations that we did towards doing all the different stuff for the businesses. That's where, I don't know how many of you guys are on Facebook, but I shared, which I can email it to you or screenshot it, but the Haymarket Regional Food Pantry actually was able to do a real big Christmas push to include like indigent hygiene packs. So they had just necessities, toothbrush, deodorant, all those different things that they were able to do because we helped sponsor it. And I believe I reached out to everybody individually to ask if it was okay to fund that additional purchase or additional donation to them. But absolutely. But absolutely, I will, when we do the full report, I'm going to have everything, all the surveys and all that. I just wanted to show you guys basically the business one specifically and make sure that it's okay that I continue looking for that. But I agree, the voucher program, while it does give $26,000 to the businesses, what it also did is it allowed residents to be able to spend $26,000. So if you look at it, you know, essentially that was $52,000 between the residents and the businesses that got to benefit. So I agree. I think I'd like to continue investigating options like that.
Mr. Mayor, mine to be real quick, because everything he said and everything he just said was that voucher was outstanding. They only turn in 56% of the vouchers, though?
It was 58%.
58%. Little things, like my subdivision, I put something on Facebook about, hey, if you get these, make sure you use them, and the people in my subdivision used the heck out of them. So that's a way to get out to the HOAs and stuff like that. Do we still have the text, the information where we can get people out that registered for that, for the text, for like emergencies and stuff?
Yes, we do. Right now, it's about 400 people last I checked.
But that's another way, they're in town, that's another way to get something else, that, hey, these vouchers are coming, be looking for them. It's amazing how many people threw them away. So that's all I have. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, Marchant.
Okay, so kudos, like everyone's putting forward, good job. Consultant, how's our consultant working out?
Good. He was one of the ones that helped set up the radio ad, and he's also the one, really, the main force behind the Prince William County, that partnership, because he was the one that reached out to the county and said, hey, what can you do for the town? And that's kind of what really facilitated that. So that was a lot of work. But yeah, he's good, he's helpful. He's presented a proposal to try and kind of help with economic development, kind of be like we pay a retainer to move forward, then have kind of like a part-time economic development person. So that's something that I'm looking at and we'll discuss when it comes to the budget. But that's something that we're looking at. I think it was a success. It was nice to have that help too, to lean on, hey, these are some ideas that I have, because we probably went through 1,000 ideas in about a week trying to figure out what applies to CARES Act and what doesn't, and he was very helpful with that.
Tracy and Lynn, I would still make the same offer that we do a second voucher program, that we divide up the businesses amongst the council members and try to go out and do that FaceTime and get them, rather than Chris do it all the time, kind of the usual suspects, change it up a little bit. Last thing too, when would be the appropriate time to bring up other infrastructure projects? Like you did the laptops and picnic tables, but I had some suggestions about signage. When's the opportunity to bring those ideas to you?
So you have to remember, with CARES Act, it has to be specific to CARES Act. So whether is it like an informational sign?
Signs, or people don't know necessarily what the police station is. I talked to the chief about that, so I had some ideas about it, but just whenever there's an opportunity to do that.
So, I mean, there's certain things. It is pretty restrictive, but yeah, if you want to, we can call and talk about the different options, because there's several things that we looked at, like informational signs, looking at, like, for example, the town of Remington purchased a sign that actually had the scrolling display board, so they could kind of have different things. So, for example, like if there was COVID testing in Long Park at whatever time, that's stuff that we could kind of put on there, like a scrolling message board and things like that. That's something that we have looked at, but that was just something that at the time we didn't have enough time to go to ARB to request for this, if this is an appropriate sign, and it was just one of those jumping through all the hoops with the condensed time frame. It just wasn't feasible, but now we have some time, so that's something that we can.
Yeah, it wasn't a negative, it was just more ideas. I'll follow up separately.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess to my right, Tracy, Lynn, Bob, any questions? Okay. Thank you, Chris. I follow right in these guys' footsteps with saying good job. We'll move on, though. We got the proposed DMV Select presentation.
Yes. Let me pull that up. So I do apologize that I was not able to attend the one meeting where Barry was here. I know you guys had a lot of questions, concerns, everything in between. What I've done is I've basically done, this is a comprehensive report. I think this should answer the majority, if not all, of your questions. I'm sure there may be some afterwards. However, I do think that, I discussed this with Kim, I think that after today's presentation, if the council still is not sure, I don't know how much more staff time we should really dedicate towards it, because it's just, it's a great opportunity, but I want to make sure you guys get your questions answered, so I think this has done it. So I would like us to be able to.
Could you just forward that to us for us to digest between now and next Monday?
I can do that as well. Do you guys want me to go through this, or do you want me to just email it and leave it alone?
We're going to discuss it Monday night. I'd rather you just email it and give us, that'll give me time to
Yeah.
answer their questions. Just my take.
A good, yeah, a good shortening of this meeting.
I just think it'd be more efficient to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should go to the bathroom more often.
So then, well, I'll just email this to council, and then we can discuss it.
They can throw you questions that they have throughout the week, as well as anything that summarizes any necessary summary next Monday.
I can do that.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, I've got one brief item prior to that motion that you're going to want so hard. If there's no objection, I'm going to bring a resolution for Monday night in opposition to SB 1157, which is Senator Spruill's bill to move all town elections to November.
Yes.
Yes.
It's barely passed out of the Senate, and because of the timing of the legislative calendar this year, if we have a resolution ready to go on Monday in opposition to it, we can get it to the appropriate subcommittee and city, counties, and towns committee prior to crossover day, which I believe is February 6th. And I've been assured that there will be no small effort made to kill it in committee. So anything we can do to help that along and help kill it, I think we should probably do, but I'll have the language for that ready for everybody next Monday.
So what is the idea behind not wanting it at the same time as general?
There are arguments for it and there are arguments against it. There is a school of thought in the legislature that the legislature shouldn't impose on town charters. We have the opportunity to move them to May or November or whatever we want, and it shouldn't be within the scope of the General Assembly's authority to go and change the charters without any input from the cities or from the towns. It's kind of a separation, you know. And there is a movement amongst some to move it to November, claiming that there is a cost savings. I would note that to those in Richmond that believe there is a cost savings, we end up paying for it, regardless of whether it's held in May or November to the county registrar. So the cost effectively doesn't change, at least not for us and for most smaller jurisdictions. There are those that say they want to do it to increase participation in local elections, and there are those that say they don't want to do it in November because then you lose the focus on local issues and it becomes highly partisan or highly political. And then there's the issue of, you know, in Prince William County, for example, in some elections you've already got now let's see, you could in theory have county board chair, board of supervisors, or Gainesville magisterial chair, pick your selection of, pick 3 out of however many water commissioners there are, plus your delegate, plus your state senator, plus your governor in some years, I mean, and then you're simply tagged on at the bottom of the ballot.
And then if my sign is blue, they're gonna think I associate with the blue color.
What?
Or red.
Or red.
Just saying.
Or, I mean, at some point in time, it could actually get rather unwieldy. I mean, there are arguments for or against it. A number of jurisdictions have changed. A number of jurisdictions refuse to. It's been the subject of ballot referendums that have gone one way or the other. Usually, if the ballot referendum is in favor of it going to November, I mean, anecdotally, they're relatively close.
Do we have a
vote totals, if however they want to stay in May, it's usually by a vast preponderance, particularly in smaller jurisdictions.
And do we have a temperature of what other localities are doing?
VML and VACO are both opposing it.
One of the things that VML was referencing is that, just like Councilman Weir mentioned, is between the delegates and senators and board of supervisors and everything else, the cost of entry for somebody that just wants to try and get involved and run for town council, that cost of entry is now significant. Either you're going to have to spend a lot more money to advertise and campaign, or you're going to have to knock on every door. So that's one of the things that they were saying, is it's kind of making it a little restrictive for the smaller localities when, just like you said, if you've got 27 things to vote for, that's one of the reasons why a lot of local governments do it in May, because it's completely separate. You don't even have anybody really campaigning, but so much, and it's just the local issues. So that is one thing that VML had mentioned is, for smaller towns and relatively new people, there may be just somebody out of left field want to participate, that it would just make it that much harder for them to potentially be able to run and get elected.
Councilman Weir, is your idea to go in the resolution, just say let the charter prevail and we pick our own dates, or what?
Just simply oppose. If we oppose the bill as submitted by Senator Spruill that mandates the change, then it just goes back to then it reverts to what it is currently, which is the option of the locality based on its charter.
And I guess everyone, do we have any stake on whether or not to opt into the marijuana thing or no?
Opt in, man, 3% more tax.
To get my donuts afterwards.
You realize I didn't comment on it, right? I didn't comment on it.
Okay.
Joe had something.
Okay, next agenda item, guys.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, sorry, Joe, I'm canceling you out. Okay, sorry.
Joe.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, there was actually a pretty good article of the pros and cons, I think it was last week or early last week in Prince William County Times. Bob covered it pretty well there. For me, the bottom line is this. It's about self-determination and sovereignty. Not to have Big Brother telling us what we have to do. It shouldn't be a mandate. We should continue to be our choice as a town. So I would support the resolution as such.
Next on the agenda?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second? Aye.
I gotta go.
See you guys.
Are you heading out on the road?
One of each.